I help pastors make money by turning their sermons into coaching programs and courses so that they can reach more people with the gospel, reclaim their time, and fund their ministry without burning out. Just like one of my students, Marcos, who made $4,000 in 7 days. In fact, Marcos sent me a message saying that he's been running an online ministry for years and has always struggled to monetize it, and that he had actually given up hope of ever scaling it into something big. And yet, in just 7 days, he made $4,000. And then there's my man, Richard, who made $17,000 in just 30 days, doing all of this without paid ads, which is crazy because he only had 6,000 followers on Instagram and didn't even have an email list when we started. Now, obviously what I'm going to be breaking down in this video works great if you have a large following or an email list, but it's not necessarily a requirement if you have a great offer and can leverage my frameworks and strategies. That is exactly what Pastor Daniel did. He was able to generate over $100,000 in just 6 months while working full-time, and get this, he only had 621 followers when we started. They all used the Monetize Your Ministry funnel, which is the exact same funnel that I used to turn my sermons and my workshops that I was preaching into a lean and profitable tent-making business. And so, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can find hundreds of leads for your program or course, how you can package your expertise even if you don't have fancy cameras or microphones, and how you can make or add an extra $10,000 to maybe even $50,000 per month. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm living proof. I went from $0 to $37,000 in just 14 days, and I simply followed the Monetize Your Ministry funnel. No ads, and I did this with just 3,000 followers. So if you haven't met yet, my name is Justin Khoe, and I'm a digital missionary. I started doing online ministry about 10 years ago when I was teaching at a Bible college, and one of my students there shared that they became a Christian because of a YouTube video. It absolutely broke my brain, and long story short, a year after starting my online ministry, I felt God calling me to quit my job and go all in on ministry. Imagine this, having to go home to your wife, who you've only been married to for about a year, that we were going to pack all of our bags again and move thousands of miles across the country. Actually, here's a photo of her, and to her credit, my wife believed in what we were doing, even though at the time, we only had like 300 subscribers, and my videos were averaging about 13 views at the time. And truth be told, probably half of those views came from my mom or me hitting the refresh button. My point is that this was completely a faith journey. Now, here is the problem with faith journeys. You can be 100% faithful, you can be 100% all in, and you can even be successful in your mission and still struggle financially. And if I had known that it would be this simple to learn how to turn my sermons and my workshops and my teachings into coaching programs or courses, I could have saved my family several years of unnecessary financial hardship. But unfortunately, I did not know about digital tent making, and so we were broke. My wife worked full-time, and then I gave myself to full-time unpaid missionary work for 5 years, which, pause right there, just wanted to appreciate her for all of her sacrifice, her faith, and for her hard work. Because if she wasn't the woman of faith that she is, we would not have been able to receive what came next. We were called to Hawaii to serve as unpaid missionaries. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Hawaii, but that place is not cheap. And then to further complicate things, we had just had our first child. In other words, the financial pressures were at an all-time high. We did think that we could make it work because at the time I had secured a contract with another ministry to support them in their online strategy. And so even though we thought and really knew that it would be tight, we decided to say yes to what we felt like God was calling us to do. And as they say, things got worse before they got better. At the worst possible time, I got word that the contract that I was relying on would be pulled due to factors outside of our control. And so there we were, living in the most expensive state in the United States with a child and no real prospect for paying our bills. That was until I discovered the Monetize Your Ministry funnel. The Monetize Your Ministry funnel has helped me to personally generate $37,000 in just 2 weeks. And all I had to do was follow a 3-step process, and in 2 weeks, my life would forever change. And here's what's crazier is that this funnel kept working. This 3-part funnel helped me to book a $45,000 podcast for a podcast in its very first season. It helped me go from struggling to make $500 honorariums when I was invited to guest teach to closing $25,000 in sales on stage in a room full of pastors who, as we all know, are notorious for being kind of cheap. What I'm trying to say is that this funnel has helped me to repeatedly generate revenue, and that's what I want to go over right now. So lock in. The first step of the funnel is storytelling. When you have a powerful story that readers or listeners or viewers can relate to, you're going to be able to speak to that person's heart and bring them into your world. Stories are inherently shareable, and this is going to be how you attract new people into your world and ultimately start them on the journey. I'll show you exactly what I mean with a few examples in just a second, so keep watching. The second step of the Monetize Your Ministry funnel is nurturing. Before anyone purchases anything, they have to trust you. And the reality is that this does take time. Now, you can do this in a variety of ways, through video, through podcasts, and even through email. But the point is that you want to build on that initial foundation and help them to trust you. This is just ministry 101, right? In most cases, you have to help a person know and then ultimately fall in love with Jesus prior to even breaching the conversation about baptism, or maybe even joining their local church, for example. Most people have questions to ask. They want to test the waters with a church before they become a member. The same thing is true when it comes to tent making. Now, this is all well and good, and in fact, most ministry leaders have done the first two things really, really well. You know how to tell stories and you know how to build relationships, but if you want to make money so that you can send your kids to Christian school or to pay off your mortgage or just put food on the table, you're gonna have to learn how to make good offers, and this is the third step. Now, I prefer the language of making good offers and not sales because truth is, I don't think anyone in ministry wants to do sales. In fact, in a perfect world, we want to do ministry for free and never have to charge anyone a dime. And this is where an analogy is going to be super helpful. Imagine yourself going up to a stranger on the street and offering to give them $20 if they'll give you $5. Let me ask you, do you think that this would be something that you'd feel weird about? Would you feel icky like a used car salesman, or would you be excited at extending the offer and seeing how happy it made that person feel? This is the thing that you have to realize about building a tent-making ministry. You are not asking for money. If you're doing it right, you're offering something of greater value than the thing that you just traded it for. And this isn't just a helpful paradigm to soothe your uneasy spirit about sales. This is literally the filter through which you need to craft your core offer. Is your offer so good that people feel kind of dumb for saying no to it? Like saying no to trading in $5 for $20? If not, that's okay, but it just might mean that you still need to do a bit of work to figure out how to improve your offer so that it is thoroughly one-sided in their favor. Now, you want some practical advice on how to do exactly that? Stick around because I'll give you some real-world examples. But first, the elephant in the room. This video that you're watching is an example of me making an offer. In other words, at the end of this video, I aim to make an offer so good that you're going to be excited to take me up on it so that you can work with me more closely. Why? Because of what's coming next. Let's go ahead and break down the Monetize Your Ministry funnel. Step number one is storytelling. Again, this is a lot simpler than most people realize it. Ministry leaders do it day in and day out, so all that you need to do is learn how to take that same energy and apply it to social media where you can reach more people. Consider this example from Richard. Richard is the guy who made $17,000 in just 2 weeks. Richard filmed a 9-second video of him walking on the treadmill with 7 words on the screen. I used to be addicted to. This is a powerful story hook because it speaks to the pain point that millions of people struggle with. Now, if you were to take a guess, which of these 7 words on the post is the most important? Which of the 7 words is the most powerful when it comes to telling the story of this post? In my opinion, it's the second word, used, as in I used to be addicted, because it indicates a before and an after. The reason why this is so powerful is because if the reader or the viewer relates to this struggle, then chances are they're going to stick around for the story of how Richard overcame. And that's exactly what Richard does in the caption of this post. He keeps telling the story of what it's like to feel trapped and overcome by shame, how this addiction negatively impacted his life and his relationships. And here's what's crazy. This simple post that was shot on an iPhone is literally only 10 seconds long. It led directly to a $1,200 sale. So here's the question for you. What transformation have you personally experienced? Or perhaps, what transformation have you helped someone else experience? Because when you learn how to tell that story effectively, you're going to be able to reach the hearts of those you are called to serve. Let me give you one more example of a story post. This right here is Pastor Daniel, who again only had 621 followers at the time, and yet still generated over 100K in just 6 months of working together. In fact, he did over 200K in his first 12 months. And it's kind of cool because now, using the Monetize Your Ministry funnel, Daniel has actually grown his online audience to over 10,000 followers without spending a single dollar on ads. How does he do it? In a large part due to storytelling posts like this one. All Daniel did was share a few pictures from a successful church program. Here is the hook for his post. How I grew my church through dodgeball. Can you see it? Can you see the story that he's teasing? If we were to break down that hook into a formula, the hook would look like this. How I got a desired outcome through a unique or unusual strategy. You see, when most people think of church growth, they don't immediately think of dodgeball. And that's why it grabs people's attention. Through a combination of a few photos from the event and a little bit of insight as to why the church decided to use dodgeball of all things to reach their community, Daniel shares a powerful story that speaks to the heart of what his audience desperately wants to see more of than anything else. So let's make it practical. What does your audience want, and what can you actually help them get? Is there a story about how you've accomplished something that others want, but maybe with a non-traditional strategy? Tell that story. And in a perfect world, be sure to speak both to that person's pain points and their desired outcome. Step number 1 in the Monetize Your Ministry funnel is to do some storytelling. Let's talk about what comes next. Step 2 is all about nurturing trust and adding value to your audience. The goal in this step is to establish yourself as a capable and trustworthy guide. Some of you have heard of this idea called paralysis analysis syndrome. It's the idea of being so overloaded with information that you end up paralyzed because you don't know what to do next. This is why you matter, because in an age of overwhelming information, people are paralyzed just trying to figure out how to get started and what to do next. This was exactly why Pastor Daniel asked to work with me, because he knew that he had a course that would be amazing to put out there in the world. But he was overwhelmed with what to do and how to get started. He had questions on equipment, platform hosting, should he write a book, do paid advertising, and to make things worse, all the internet gurus were giving him conflicting advice. Launch a podcast, start a YouTube channel. And the truth was that with his limited free time that came from giving himself to full-time ministry, Daniel needed someone who had been down that path before him who could shortcut the learning process. You see, Daniel knew that he could pay with sweat equity. He could spend months or years figuring out what a coach could help him in mere weeks. That's why he wanted to work with me. You see, the value that you offer isn't necessarily in the information alone, but it's actually in the relationship with someone you trust, someone who can help you get where you want to go just faster. Here's one example of how that worked out for Daniel. Prior to working with me, Daniel would be invited to teach his unique model of evangelism at conferences all around the country. However, as most of us have experienced, getting fairly compensated for his expertise and time on the road proved to be difficult. After one call with me, we put together a strategy to get him paid at his next speaking gig, and would you know it, Daniel closed $28,000 from one speaking gig when previously he would have struggled to get a few $100s in an honorarium. The content that you want to create in the nurturing phase of the Monetize Your Ministry funnel revolves around sharing how you've been where your students are. You've walked a mile in their shoes, and now you're able to show them a clear path forward. But let's make it a little bit more practical. Identify 3 to 5 problems that your future students are struggling with today. Create content showing that you know what it's like to be there, and more importantly, that you're a capable and trustworthy guide who can help them overcome whatever struggle they're facing. But this is important. Show. Don't just tell them that you know the way. Show them through stories and testimonials. Show them through data and analytics. Show them that they can trust you by helping them solve problems far before they make a decision to work with you. And be patient. This is the biggest mistake that I see new tent makers make. Realize that building trust takes time. This isn't the kind of thing that necessarily happens overnight. Remember that most people don't get married after the first date. So don't rush on to step 3 in the funnel. Take your time. Ironically, after I just said not to rush into step 3, we are now on step 3, which is to make good offers. Good offers are very, very simple, and at the same time, they can feel frustratingly complex. A good offer makes the person feel like they are the ones getting the better end of the deal, just like our previous example of trading $5 for $20. However, not all offers are so easy to quantify. How much is it worth when you can help them process trauma or grief? What is the value of helping someone to hear God's voice for the first time? Or how much is someone really willing to pay for tips on how to have a healthy, Christ-centered marriage? The answer is that it really depends. There are, in fact, a lot of details that go into crafting an offer so good that people feel dumb for saying no to. But one helpful thing to focus on is the pain of things staying the same. All things being equal, the higher someone's awareness of their existing pain, the more likely they are to take action to solve that pain. Let me give you a weak example of what that looks like to speak to someone's pain, and then afterwards, a stronger example of what I mean. First, the weaker example. I was on a coaching call with one of my students who served as a missionary in Cambodia. And when I asked him why he signed up, he said this: "You're doing the mission that God called you to do, but you're also dealing with the stress of finances. You have to always ask people to give you $50 a month, $100 a month, not because you want to, but because you kind of have to, and it starts to feel like begging." He said that when he would go to churches to preach or teach, that he suddenly felt nervous to say anything that someone might not like in case he lost their support. He told me that he started to feel like a multi-level marketer, not a missionary. Now, in this case, the pain of not knowing how to be a tent maker means that he was stuck spending upwards of 20 hours per week doing fundraising just to keep the mission going. And here's why I say that this is a weaker pain point. Because chances are that many of you do not resonate entirely with this example. After all, many of you aren't missionaries living overseas, and thus you don't really have to deal with 20 hours worth of fundraising. You might loosely, however, resonate with the tension between mission and paying the bills, but for many of you, it's probably not as compelling as my next example. Here it is. Statistics show that 70% of pastors have meaningful debt, something like $43,000 on average. I know of pastors who work 60 hours per week, giving their entire lives to the church, and yet they can't afford to send their own children to Christian schools. I know pastors who feel burnt out because the only way to say yes to God means working all day for the church and then driving Uber all night because they can't survive off the church salary alone. I know pastors who are wrestling through whether or not they need to give up the ministry or choose to continue having their family be the ones to pay the price for saying yes to God. You see, this is not a minor irritation. This is not a pebble in your shoe. That's like stepping on a rusty nail that needs immediate attention. You see, when you speak to an urgent felt need, the offer feels so much more irresistible. The pain of things staying the same exceeds the pain of change. So when I tell you that Richard was able to make more income in 30 days of digital tent making than he did in an entire year of substitute teaching, the offer starts to sound more and more compelling. The offer begins to sound a lot like trading $5 for $20. Only a fool would say no. This is why the third step in the Monetize Your Ministry funnel is so important. You must learn how to make good offers. Because when you learn how to tell compelling stories, and then when you build trust and confidence in you as a guide through your teaching, and then when you learn how to make good offers, everything changes. How amazing would it be if in the next 90 days you could generate $10,000 in additional revenue? Several of my students, like I've shared with you already, have done so much more than this. But even if it was just an extra $10,000, how would that change the way that you get to boldly and unapologetically say yes to God? And so from here, you really have two different paths. Path number one is simple. You can do it on your own. You can try to figure it out. Now, to be clear, there is nothing wrong with a little trial and error and figuring out your own tent making business. You absolutely could do this by yourself. But if the idea of having to listen to hundreds of podcasts and watch thousands of YouTube tutorials only to feel overwhelmed by conflicting lines of advice sounds impossible, and you'd much rather save years of confusion and despair, you can get my personal help, which I would love to do. This is where I can save you years of wandering and help you get on a proven system that helps ministry leaders just like you. This is why I created the Digital Tent Making Accelerator to help shortcut your journey to freedom and financial independence. It's a 90-day program where I help you learn how to tell the stories that speak to the people God has called you to serve. It's where I give you my templates, my frameworks that have already generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue so that you can copy what is already working. In this coaching group, you get access to training modules and worksheets so that you know exactly what to do, in what order, so you're never feeling like you're guessing or doing it on your own. In fact, every single week in this coaching accelerator, we hop on group coaching calls where you get to network with other tent makers who will pray for you. They're going to encourage you, give you feedback and guidance. And of course, I hop on these calls every single week to give you direct input, to answer your questions, and to hold your hand every step along the way. And so, if you're ready to launch a tent making business that generates $10,000 in 90 days or less using my simple Monetize Your Ministry funnel strategy in the accelerator, I want you to know that there are two options to take. You can do it as a done with you option, and there's also a one-on-one premium coaching experience. If you would like to learn about either option, or if you have any questions for me, all you have to do, send me an email or a DM on Instagram.